Now for our first story, more than 500 pigs have been infected with African swine fever in the Elembele district of the Western region. The Western Regional Director of Agriculture, Victor Okonai, made the disclosure during a meeting to take stock of last year's activities and strategize for the year. He said the viral disease was detected last week and that all livestock infected with the disease would be slaughtered and burnt to prevent it from spreading to other communities outside the district. He indicated that 3 communities in the district had been affected, adding that farmers whose livestock had been affected would be registered and compensated. He cautioned farmers who had their livestock affected not to smuggle pig products outside or bring in new livestock to the community, since fresh livestock could be infected. African swine fever is a highly contagious viral disease of pigs and very similar in its clinical presentation to classical swine fever. The viruses are distinct and classified in different families. The Western Regional Epidemiologist Dr. Rubin Tate says the disease is not endemic in the region. Therefore, communities that had not been affected by the disease could eat pork.
The Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has begun its decongestion exercise at the KJT bus terminal to ease vehicular movement. The exercise, which is aimed at relocating long-distance vehicles, has seen the cooperation of officials of the GPRT. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin was at the terminal and filed this report.
At about 8 a.m., some vehicles had already moved to Abinchi Market and Swami, where bus terminals had been created for them. For instance, Seririoso, Chuaboso, Takrade, Pristia, Wassa, Kropo, Agona Wassa, among other stations, have been relocated to the Abinchi Market. This has eased vehicular congestion at the terminal. The Ashanti Regional Chairman of the Concerned Transport Union is George Opoku.
Chairman for soldiers number and woman who sign where we cry, you see, you free or near normal peace near the drivers and I because if he said a year, a Bayami and Yadia, a year, the Debia and every beside, the Kodias and the enemy, a you cool and no more iron.
He said 3 stations, namely Asankaba, Takwa and Enchi, will not be relocated now, but the drivers want all stations relocated.
Now we turn our attention to some governance issues and information. Reaching the news team indicates that former Communications Director of the Presidency in the Mills Administration, Kokua Nyidoho, has been appointed as the President's Special Aide with the National Security. President John Maham's appointment of Kokua Nyidoho comes barely 24 hours after he appointed former BBC presenter Ben Doche Malo as head of communications at the presidency, as well as his communications advisor. Kokua Nyidoho has been operating with the National Security since President John Mills died.
Teacher trainees across the country are faced with the possibility of missing their end-of-semester exam in spite of their pleas. This is because members of the College of Teachers Association of Ghana insist they will not return to the classrooms until the Ministry of Education gives them 70% of their current gross salary for work done over the year. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reports.
The National Labour Commission has summoned striking teachers of colleges of education to a meeting on Wednesday. The Commission hopes to address their grievances at today's meeting, which will see representation from the Ministry of Education and the National Council for Tertiary Education. The meeting comes on the back of a similar meeting last week, which executives of the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana called to attend. Acting Executive Secretary of the Commission, Dr. Bernice Welbeck, warns of sanctions if the teachers failed to appear. She was surprised that the association failed to appear before the Commission and decided to proceed on strike. She told the news team the Commission has powers of a high court, and once an association was invited, they had to appear. Dr. Welbeck hoped the association will give the Commission the due respect and make the appearance.
Meanwhile, the National Secretary of College of Education of Teachers Association, Prince Obenhima, in a reaction denying they were invited for the first meeting. He challenged the commission to tell the world the mode of invitation to the association. Explaining the reasons for the strike, Prince Oben said they cannot be paid under Ghana Education Service remuneration, even though they have been upgraded into a tertiary institution since 2012 under the College of Education Act 2012. He said they feel slighted and cheated. Aiding per law of Ghana, every institution that functions as a tertiary institution must be paid a commensurate salary. According to him, they've been taking all the steps, including writing to the authorities since November 2013, and nothing has been done. He said they cannot continue what they call donkey job. He hinted, however, that they will be attending the meeting called by the Labour Commission.
In other news, the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, Mohammed Amin Adam, says reviewing the Petroleum Revenue Management Act is crucial to the development of the sector and the country. At the National Forum to discuss and analyze proposals for review, he argued that if this was not done, it would undermine Ghana's development efforts.
Petroleum Revenue Management Act was passed by Parliament in March 2011 and has been described as most progressive and provided a transparent framework for managing Ghana's petroleum revenues. However, like many new laws, its implementation has brought to the fore some challenges. The government of Ghana recently announced its decision to review the law and invited proposals from Ghanaians for consideration. It is against this background that the Finance Ministry, civil society organizations and other stakeholders filed proposals. The proposals cover the fiscal framework, financing of GNPC, the annual budget funding amount, transparency and accountability, among others. At a forum to discuss these proposals, the Executive Director for Africa Center for Energy Policy, Mohammed Amin Adam, said the review was crucial to the development of the country.
As a middle-income economy, we must dream big, think big, and do big things. And this is how Ghana can once again show to the world that the promise of oil will not be compromised for our people. We can do this by ensuring that the law becomes a tool for the efficient investment of oil revenues, provides a framework for public investment management to ensure value for money, and reduces the cost associated with the complexities that hamper the effective implementation of the law. We will soon see from the proposals the ministry has received the complex law we passed to govern the management of our oil revenues, and how the current model, if not checked and if not followed, could undermine our development efforts.
A World Bank representative lauded the initiative and pledged support.
Oil revenue architecture and utilization can better position Ghana to address or further combat poverty and enhance shared prosperity. The World Bank lauds the government initiative once again and looks forward to seeing a fruitful discussion from today's forum, and also looking forward to the impact or outcome of this discussion on the revised petroleum law. The bank is ready and willing to provide the necessary support to the process, to government in the process, and particularly in technical aspects of the oil and gas sector.
Participants were taken through various operational challenges and inconsistencies of the Act and the proposals submitted for its review.
The head of communications at the Ministry of Education and Petroleum, Edward Bauer, has debunked reports that the dwindling supply of gas from West African gas pipeline will plunge the country into another period of load shedding. He says in spite of the drop, the dual power plants that rely on light crude oil can't support generation while awaiting others from Ghana Gas Project, which will come on stream before the year ends.
The supply of gas from the West African gas pipeline has been erratic since flows resumed in August 2013 after the rupture in the pipeline was repaired. Ghana is to receive 120 million standard cubic feet daily from the pipeline per the contractual agreements. However, by the close of 2013, the country was receiving just about 70 million standard cubic feet, which has further fallen to 45 million standard cubic feet, a situation the VRE has complained about. This, coupled with the delay of the Ghana Gas project, has raised fears of an imminent load-shedding exercise, but the Energy Ministry says it is far-fetched.
The policy has always been that, look, anytime there's gas, the first company that gets it is Asogli. The reason being that Asogli, without natural gas, they can operate. So what it means is that the other plants will have to sometimes use light crude oil. The effect of that is the cost of power. Because when you then begin to start using light crude oil, the cost of power will go up. So that is where the challenge is. And for us, knowing that power, and for that matter, energy is critical for industries and for even economic well-being of people in their homes, this is not a good story for us. So as to whether there will be load shedding, I can't state categorically that, but as long as we continue to get some amount of gas, we will always get Asogli coming on. The rest, we can always use light crude oil.
He mentioned that the shortage of petroleum products in the country had been normalized, adding that their pricing following the automatic adjustment formula will not remain on a high trajectory.
For the prices in the international market, government has no control over it. And therefore, as and when the prices go up, it will have a direct effect on us. So, as to whether the prices will go up or will come down depends on what the scenario looks like any point in time. So you have had situations where we have had increases in fuel prices. There are certain times where the prices stay flat, and there are certain times even when the prices go down. At least there's always constant supply of fuel in the market, and it is because of the fact that we have cost-reflective prices. Because of the agreement we all came to that we should have this automatic price adjustment. We should let the formula work. Said that at the end of the day, people are interested in having the fuel as compared to having low prices and not having the fuel. It's the same thing we want to apply in the power sector, whereby we will have people buying energy for the real cost of it, and at the same time making sure that the energy is available and reliable.
Meanwhile, he says his outfit will schedule a meeting with stakeholders in the sector to ensure transport fares are not outrageously adjusted by transport operators. Abigail Adumakwenchi for Joy News.
Managers of the Venture Capital Trust Fund have currently made available $57.2 million to finance small and medium-scale enterprises in Ghana. The fund is set up to establish 2 additional funds worth 150 million cedis in the course of the year in support of SMEs and more startups.
The Venture Capital Trust Fund was set up in 2004 by government to provide long-term funding for the high-risk investment needs of SMEs. Although the fund has supported a number of SMEs, the past year, according to managers, had been challenging due to government's fiscal pressures, among others.
Its impact on the portfolio companies was quite severe. Some of the companies were complaining of increasing costs and of the energy crisis we had, and so on and so forth. So it did have an impact, and I believe that the worst is behind us, and some of the companies are actually kind of startups, so you would expect that they would also be struggling in that regard. And so last year, its impact, the general economic impact, of course, affected the portfolio companies. However, there are some portfolio companies who are also doing very well.
The Venture Capital Trust Fund, which is mainly equity funding, allows government to be part owners of the businesses that assess it. Understanding this concept by SMEs, however, remains a challenge for managers of the fund.
Right now, going forward, I think one of the things that we are also planning to do is to team up with the other various financial service providers, the banks, the insurance companies, all the other sources where people would go naturally looking for money, and explain, team up with them to do some sort of a collaboration, either seminars or workshops or training seminars and so on and so forth, to actually bring this out.
In spite of the difficulties with capital inflows over time, he assured of a promising 2014.
In 2004, we got about 22.4 million Ghana cedis, and we set up about 5 funds in US dollars. So it has been challenging in terms of the exchange rate movement and, paying money in dollars and so on and so forth. However, the government was quite generous in pumping more money in 2011, which came in 2012, which was 10 million Ghana cedis additional. And then in 2013, they committed another 10 million. So that brings into maybe about an additional 20
injection into the industry. In terms of the global picture, you have about $57.2 million US, which is available for SMEs. Now, with this additional funding, because we've committed these funds already, we still keep on disbursing to fund managers, but we are going to be establishing new funds this year. The two funds that we are looking to do is 100 million Ghana Cedi fund and then another 50 million Ghana Cedi fund.
The Ashanti Regional Police Command has arrested 4 suspected armed robbers in connection with the robbing and raping of Thailand national and Ghanaian at the Duako suburb in Kumasi. The incident, which happened on 14 January 2014 at about 4 o'clock in the morning, left the victim shocked. Mahmoud Mohammed, the reading reports.
The suspects, Kweku Sapon, 28, Nana Kwesi Ajiman, 22, Kwame Entry, 28, alias Ghost Killer, and Kojo Kumi, 22, are said to have attacked 3 Thailand nationals and 1 Ghanaian. The robbers took away their personal effects, including a laptop, a digital camera, 5,500 Ghana cedis, and $800 US. 3 days after the attack, the police had an intelligence information that the alleged robbers had gone into hiding at Kenyasi. Police say a patrol team dispatched to the area managed to arrest the 4 suspects. 1 laptop, an unregistered motorbike, a laptop bag, 4 baseball caps and a wristwatch were retrieved from the suspects. All the 3 suspects are currently in police custody, assisting in investigations.
Director of Global News at the BBC, Peter Horrocks, has announced plans to establish a foundation in Komla Dumor's memory for aspiring African journalists. Peter Horrocks made this known when he joined dozens of BBC staff to remember their departed colleague at an impromptu memorial gathering on Monday, January 20, 2014. Speaking at the service held at the All Souls Church, Peter Horrocks warmly recalled how Komla Dumor would always call him boss despite his protestations to the contrary. A series of moving tributes followed from Dumor's closest friends and colleagues. Solomon Mugera, head of the African service, said he called him chief. Several speakers recalled that they had been told to look after him when he first arrived in the UK, but that he soon became more like a big brother, looking out for them instead. Lillian Lando, controller of languages at Global News, described Komla Dumor as a big man in stature, intellect and heart. Komla Dumor died at his London home in the United Kingdom on Saturday after a suspected heart attack.
The chairperson of the Convention Social Party has described the late BBC broadcaster Komla Dumor as one who typified excellence in all he did. According to her, Komla was objective, neutral, and demonstrated a great sense of professionalism on the international platform.
Tributes continue to pour in at the sudden demise of Komla Dumor. Signing the book of condolence open at Joy FM, Samia Nkrumah noted Komla Dumor made Ghana and Africa proud when he mounted the world stage through the BBC platform to prove that the African is capable of achieving excellence.
Who I know he's impacted on many professionals, journalists. I pray that many young people will emulate his example, represent us well, and as objective as we are in all what we do, we must not lose our sense of patriotism, our responsibility to our roots. This is what we remember Komla by.
Information and Media Relations Minister Mahama Yariga also described the late broadcaster as someone who demonstrated commendable courage in his field of work.
I hope that all the things that we're all saying about him and his practice of the profession would indeed serve as a standard for everybody, not just Joy FM, but for everybody in the practice today. And everybody will be inspired by the recognition that globally and locally were given to him to work as hard as he did, because he clearly was a very hard-working person. And
Former Information Minister Asamoah Boateng also shared some memories of Komla Dumor.
I remember him. I also remember very well during those days he was hosting the morning show.
What was the experience like?
A politician, you are coming in here and you think, who is the host? He said, Komla Dumor. Said, let me get my facts right. Get serious. This is a serious business. And not only that, it makes you aware that there are people watching you. And that you got to do the best for the nation because you are here to serve. And Komla is doing his best to bring the best out of you as well. And you can't come here and waffle and beat about the bush on the morning show.
Other politicians also joined to pay tribute to the late Komla Dumor. The chairman of the Great Consolidated Popular Party, Dr. Henry Latte, described Komla as a hard-working young man who made Ghana proud on the international platform. The Communications Minister, Dr. Omane Boama, described him as a dedicated person who excelled in all fields, while the Deputy Education Minister, Okujeto Ablakwa, described Komla as an illustrious son of the country who had passion in all he did. The Deputy Sports Minister, Joseph Yamin, among many other personalities, also paid glowing tribute to Komla Dumor.
Wow, so that'll be it for the news update we have for you on the AM show. We just have to bring you a recap of our top stories.
The National Labour Commission summoned striking teachers, colleges of education to a meeting today.
Well, in the East-Western region, African swine fever outbreak is being reported in the Elembele district, and in a community like Anoche alone, we're being told 512 pigs have been infected by the viral disease.
And BBC to establish a foundation in Komla Dumor's memory.
So that'll be it for the news update on the AM show. Next, we bring to you what we have by way of sports in all highlights.